Welcome on back. Welcome on back. Welcome on back to our unpopular opinion. I d- don't ask me why I did that. I just it helped me ease into the transition. Help me ease into the segment. Look, I don't care. I do and say what I'm gonna say. I don't care. I don't care what people's opinions are of me. You know that, and of course you know that. But yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Anyhow, welcome on back, everybody. Thank you for coming back with us on segment number one. What we have been playing this week, and it's actually been a handful of stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of got my hands on quite a few things. Some of the things might surprise you a little bit. Some of them may not be. Um, let me let me start by some of the quick things because I'm going to touch on Lies of P because that is a game I've been playing actually probably pretty heavy this past week, and I'll touch on that because that's going to probably be a little bit more at length than the other ones will be. But let me start off by saying I have been playing some more of NBA 2K24. I'm really starting to feel starting to become more Madden-ish, which sucks because I've loved the NBA franchise for so long. But it's starting to feel like it's starting to fall into that same trap that Madden fell into. And I'm not here to review it yet. I don't know if we're gonna review it for next show. Maybe it's gonna be between that and Mortal Kombat 1 are gonna be the ones that we review. I'm thinking Mortal Kombat 1 is probably gonna be the one for next week, and then we're probably gonna do NBA 2K24 the week after that. And then I think we're doing Lies of P the week after that because I'll be completely done with Lies of P by then. But I think it's starting to fall into that Madden trap where it seems like it's more and more of a refresh year over year where you're getting the same thing except for just updated rosters and the user interface is changing a little bit. That's really the only things that have changed much about it. That and the player ratings, but you can do with an update. We've talked about that with a lot of the sports titles that have been out. The only sport that I feel on a year to year basis that is probably doing more than other franchises. I can't say wrestling because the WWE franchise in 2K have been like really hit and miss. The game has been excellent some years, and then it sucked balls the years after that. Like this year's version was actually pretty decent. I like the WWE franchise from this year. Last year's sucked majorly, and I think the year before that sucked even worse than that. But this year, not so much. Now I don't know if they just change teams every other year or they give certain teams a couple years to work on it for that particular iteration. I don't know. But the one sport that I see a bit more consistency on with growth is FIFA. FIFA to me seems like it's on a year-to-year basis seems like it's getting more and more fine-tuned. It's getting better. And they're even introducing like other things involved with FIFA, other titles to go along with it. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more things kind of involved that way. I mean, they have like the World Cup type stuff to go along with the game iterations that come out on a year-to-year basis. They had like a front office game I think came out one year as well. There's different iterations to go along with FIFA. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's other sports games out there that actually do it very well. MLB The Show is another one that kind of comes to mind that I think actually does a pretty decent job of kind of mixing it up sometimes. NBA used to be like that. Now it's starting to fall into the Madden trap. Madden has sucked for years. And now I heard they're getting ready to bring back NCAA football possibly next year. And I am afraid to see what. Now, I've wanted the college football game back for many years now. So ever since they lost the license and they no longer do them, I've been wanting the NCAA football games to come back for a long time. I'm glad to see they're coming back, but I fear they're going to fall into that same sports every year trap, unfortunately. And I don't see that getting fixed or better anytime soon unless some of them decide to kind of take that leap and do the subscription model that we recommended on our review when we did Madden last week. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and check out the video or the under review section for last week's or the last show that we did for Madden 24. So, I mean, that's all I'm really going to say about NBA 2K. Is it starting to fall into that trap? I hope it doesn't fall into that. The other, I mean, besides NBA, what we've been playing, we've kind of touched on a few others that we've been doing as well. Mortal Kombat 1 was one that we got in the office. We didn't play it when it first came in. I don't know why. I've always been a Mortal Kombat fan. Have loved all the games, even up to this iteration of it. And this iteration of Mortal Kombat 1 kind of picks the story up right from where Mortal Kombat 11 left off. And I see what they're doing. It's almost like a reboot of the franchise, but it's not a reboot of the franchise, if that makes any sense. So they're going to reboot the franchise essentially. But they're not rebooting it in the way that you're going to go back and remember this is Mortal Kombat 1. If you played the story mode of Mortal Kombat 11, you saw that they were kind of entering into, I don't know if it's like a time warp or a kind of like what they did when in the Marvel Cinematic Universe when they started doing like the time jumps from the different timelines. It's like they went back in the timeline where some of the characters have changed, but a lot of them are back to the way that you originally remember them from the first Mortal Kombat game, which I thought was actually really, really cool. Which I understand now, was that why they called it Mortal Kombat 1? Because I'm not going to spoil any of the story for you, but there was a time jump from Mortal Kombat 11 back to the beginning of where it all started. And that's where this game picks up at. And I think the storytelling has always been, as far as a fighting game franchise goes, has always been in Mortal Kombat's favor. It's always been in Mortal Kombat's court. They're the ones that have owned it. They've done the most with it. They've done the best with it. And that does not change here. I think they are still doing the best when it comes to the storytelling of a fighting franchise. They are playing it extremely well. The characters are just as awesome as I remember them. And they seem to be adding more and more elements to the game to where it doesn't feel like you're getting the same thing that Mortal Kombat 11 offered, but you're getting a refresh and you're getting some new elements that you haven't seen before. And for a game that's like 12 to 14 games in now, I still don't know how the fuck that's possible. I mean, Ed Boon can be a fucking madman, but a genius all at the same time. I've had the pleasure of actually seeing Ed Boon before at a conference I went to. And I'm trying to remember what Mortal Kombat game was coming out that he was there to talk to us about. And the guy's a fucking madman. But you can tell, just when you talk with him, he loves what he does. He loves what he does. He wants to stay in that lane. He enjoys it. And there's nothing that nobody can say or do that's going to take that away from him. And you could tell that's with any franchise he gets his hands on. You could tell he wants to get back into the Injustice franchise. You could tell he wants to work on another Injustice game. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know what the licensing agreements look like between DC and NetherRealm Studios. I don't know. But as far as Mortal Kombat goes, you can tell that he looks at that franchise like a child. He loves it. He loves what he does. He loves the storytelling of it. He loves those characters. You can tell, and you can tell by the game when it comes out, and you can tell by this game. It's great. The tag team iterations that they brought into it this time around, it kind of brought in that feel of what Marvel versus Capcom did at one point when you could select a couple of characters and you can tag team them in and out. But the characters are different from the main roster to the tag team partner roster. I thought that was actually pretty slick. It's just a well done game. The story is actually phenomenal. I'm only maybe 3-4 hours into the story mode of it right now, and it already is a phenomenal story. I'm looking forward to doing the review on this one. It's just been one of those games. Now, the game's not going to be for everybody. If you're not a fighting fan, obviously, it's probably not going to be in your wheelhouse. If you're not a fan of like the strong violence and gore, I don't know why you would check out a Mortal Kombat game to begin with. But yeah, it's good. And if you haven't played it yet or you're on the fence about it, there's no need to be. Get out there, check it out for yourself, play it. You'll enjoy it. If you love Mortal Kombat 11, you will love Mortal Kombat 1. Trust me on that. We've been playing a little bit more of Plague's Tale Requiem. Ever since that video on our YouTube channel hit that major flux of viewers that still baffles me right now because I don't understand where the viewership came from. Like I said in the very beginning of this episode, I went back and I listened to the entire episode or to the entire video, watched it to see if there was anything that I said that was off kilter. If there was anything that I said that I might have to issue an apology for, or if there was anything that I did that just was funny. There wasn't, though. And it still kind of baffles my mind why that video almost trickled up to close to 1,000 viewers. It's still going up right now as we speak. See, my voice came out there. I caught that one. As we speak, that video is still going up. I don't know where the video got shared to. I don't see any of that info. I wish somebody would tell me. Did somebody share it like on a website somewhere or on their YouTube channel or their social media account, or is there a TikTok out of something that I did that I don't know about or that I said that I don't know about? Let me know. I would greatly appreciate that. But we decided to go back and play a little bit more Plague's Tale and see if any of the other videos that we put up from that game get that same sort of traction. So we'll find out. You know, I don't know. We will certainly find out if that's the case. But we plan on finishing off Plague's Tale Requiem. We are into I think chapter 7 now of that game. I don't know how many chapters there are in the game. I haven't looked that up. But we are on currently right now chapter 7, so we will look to finish that up here hopefully pretty soon. In the last game that we played, and this is the one that I really kind of wanted to get behind the mic on and talk about, is Liza P. Liza P, to some of y'all probably you have no idea what Liza P is. You might have heard of it. Some of you may not have heard of it. Some of you don't even really know what Liza P even means or stands for. Well, let me give it to you kind of in a nutshell. First of all, I'm not here to review the game, so I'm not going to give it a score. But, Liza P is a retelling of a popular folk tale about a puppet maker, his puppet, and a cricket named Jiminy. Yes, I'm talking about the story of Pinocchio. Why is why some of my videos that involve Liza P that are up on our YouTube channel, I have titled "Oh Pinocchino," or you hear me talk about in some of the videos. It made my son laughing in the background. Is Pinocchino? Yeah, it's a retelling, and you're put into a cyberpunk gothic world of Pinocchio, and all the popular folklore is here. The popular characters are here, all the way from Geppetto to Jiminy Cricket himself. They are all here. And I think it's obviously the setting is fictional, but you can tell it's very, very UK based on the way that they are dressing it, the way that a lot of the Italian lingo is. It's very, very heavily driven that way. But this game is about as Soulsborne as you can possibly get right now. We said that about Neo many, many years ago, is that Neo was, one of those games that was very, very Souls-like, but offered something kind of different. It was kind of fresh, kind of gave it that refresh. And Neo, to me, is still one of my favorite franchise games to play. I love Neo 1. Neo 2 was phenomenal. I know that I'm hoping they put together like a Neo 3 here sometime soon. I'll need it. But Liza P is about as Soulsborne as you can possibly get. What do I mean by Soulsborne for those of you who don't know? The Dark Souls elements gameplay, Bloodborne elements gameplay universe. Sekiro, I don't even know how that kind of fits into the equation. But Liza P takes 3 game elements from those 3 games, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, and mixes all 3 into one game. And that's what brings us Liza P. It has got the atmosphere and the movement gameplay of Bloodborne. So for all of you fans out there who have been wanting another Bloodborne for so long, right now, until they give you Bloodborne 2, this is about as close as you're going to possibly get. This game is about as close as you're going to get to having Bloodborne 2 right now, unless they give you Bloodborne 2. That's the best possible way that I can put it to you. This gives you a lot of elements from Dark Souls 3, and it gives you some elements from Sekiro. Maybe not so much the game speed of Sekiro, but the way that the deflections and the blocking works in Sekiro is the elements they took away and they put into Liza P. Because Liza P is going to rely heavily on your parrying and blocking skills. And just like Bloodborne, your dodge skills are going to come into a factor as well. But one thing that I can say, even though it is the retelling of like a grim Pinocchio world, they don't child this up in any way. This is certainly for the hardcore fans of those franchises. This gives you everything that you have wanted. For those of you that have the Bloodborne void in your heart right now, this game is directed solely for you. This gives you everything that you want and adds some awesome variations and awesome elements to the franchise that we have not seen before. Liza P is probably, I won't say it's my favorite game this year so far. I'm not going to go as far as saying that yet. I mean, like I said, I'm only maybe 5-6 hours into the game right now. There's still stuff that I'm still finding out about the game, so I can't go off into say that. But from the boss battles to the world that we're in, This is right up my freaking alley. This is right where my comfort zone is. The only thing that I don't like about Liza P that I kind of wish did it did more of or took more away from Bloodborne is the world itself. It seemed like Bloodborne's interconnecting worlds and the different ways that you can go, the different paths you can take, seemed much, much bigger and open world than Liza P does. Liza P is much more linear. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not certain areas within that linear world that you can explore. Shortcuts that you can open up. And there are shortcuts in this game that are very, very obvious and prevalent. Like, you need to hit them. But it doesn't give you that world exploration that I kind of got out of Bloodborne. This game doesn't give you that. It's much more linear. Like, you have a set path that you have to go from the beginning of the start of the stage. Then you have your middle point. Sometimes you have your middle boss to deal with or mid boss to deal with. Then you have they call them stargazers in this game, but they're essentially like your lanterns or bonfires from the Soulsborne series. But they call them stargazers in this game. And they have them. The stargazers are pretty fairly spread apart. You know, I not once yet have I gotten to a point where I'm like, man, I need to go back to a stargazer. I don't see one on the horizon, or please give me a stargazer up here. There's always a stargazer pretty close to, or within a reasonable travel distance to where I'm going. Which could kind of make it a little bit easier. Now, that's one question I did get from some people. Is Liza P on par with the difficulty level of From Software's games? So far, I'm going to say yes, it is. Right now, it is probably on par with. I'm trying to think of some of the bosses from Bloodborne, bosses from Dark Souls 2. It's kind of like on that path right now. It's not easy, but it's not overly like wanting to scream at the TV difficult just yet. But, like I said, you can still got to give me time because I'm only 6 hours into this game. I am on my 4th or 5th world now. Let's see, I beat 4 world bosses already, so I'm on my 5th. Okay. And this is a game you've been playing too. And I can kind of touch on this now because my own son is playing this game. And my son has not played, he's looking at me now. My son has not played any of the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro games before. This is his first game like that he's playing. And so far, he is on world number 4. He hasn't gotten to the World 4 boss yet, but he's in that world right now. And he's starting to get to, some of the irritation levels of it, where it's like, man, this is freaking difficult, but he goes back to it. It's got that hook. It hooks you. Like, you get to a certain point, and you're like, man, this game is getting on my fucking nerves, and you want to scream at the TV. But then you're like, I've got to best this. I got to get through this. I'm not going to let this fucking game get the best of me. I've heard you in your room. I'm out here watching a football game, and I hear you in your room back there screaming. Like, no! Yeah, I heard that. I think it probably even woke your mama up. I remember those times. Have I personally, as a veteran of the Soulsborne series, felt like that yet? No, I have not felt like that. Although that very first boss that you run into, the first world boss that you run into, I did reach that level of excitement because of just like finally beating him. Because I tried Like just because I was still fresh with the mechanics. I was still trying to get used to some of the things that the game does. So that I mean that's probably part of the reason why. But once I started getting really really used to it, and started getting used to the parry and the dodge timing, because that's going to take some freaking practice. This game gives you no window for a lot of that. I'm warning you guys about that now. As far as your dodging, your blocking, your parrying, that window, it's just can be atrocious sometimes, and you're feeling very very aggravated. It's going to take you a couple bosses to kind of get used to it and get the timing down on some things. And you can improve that with some of the upgrades that the game offers. So I think that was by design. But I mean, like I said, there are some elements. It's like, man, it's going to get frustrating. And he's reached that point a few times. But it was cool to kind of see you come up to me after you beat that. Was it the second world boss? Was it the second or the third one? It was the fire one. That was the second one, right? Or was that was the third one? Well, whichever one it was. It was cool to see you come up to me and say, "Look, I beat that one on my first try. First playthrough, first try, I did it." And you're trying to explain to me and give me pointers on it. Well, like, look, as an I won't say an expert, but an experienced Soulsborne player, there's going to be elements of parts of this game you're like, okay, I can see this coming. I know what this is going to be up ahead here. I know around this corner there's got to be a guy sitting there waiting. The boss techniques of, like we did with Vort in Dark Souls 3, I think the very first boss that we dealt with in that game was like a freaking Vort, where you have to just kind of hover up underneath his fucking ball sack and just go to fucking town with whatever weapon you had until he starts to go into a frenzy, and then you got to back off. I just finished off a boss last night who was the first two-phase boss of that game, and I'm looking at you because you haven't gotten there yet, but this is going to be your first Soulsborne true test, is with that boss. But anyway, that's my opinion on Lies of P. I'm not going to give you a review on it yet. The review for that game is most certainly coming, so be on the lookout. But for those of you that are Soulsborne players, if you love Bloodborne as well, go check it out. If you have PlayStation, go out and buy it. It's worth your time and money, trust me. If you are on Xbox, go out and buy it. It's worth your time and money. Or if you want to try it all out and play through it, it's on Game Pass right now. It was on Game Pass day one. Okay? That is worth the download. Trust me. It's worth the download. Trust me. Give it a try. All right, so we're going to take us a small break. When we come back, we are going to get into segment number 2, which is that Grinds My Gears segment. I've already got it laid out of what I'm going to be talking about and going over, my opinions on a couple things. And then we'll go into segment 3 and 4 right after that. But, Maestro, take us on out for this break, please.